Welcome to Pat's Papers. I'm Pat Kiernan. Often we start the roundup of the nation's newspapers with a look at what is clearly the biggest story. Today, we'll go with what is my favorite story of the morning. My favorite bit of information in the papers this morning is a USA Today snapshot about lunch. A lot of people are feeling the financial pinch. They're bringing a brown bag to work. But what's interesting is the day of the week breakdown. It starts out in the week that we're enthusiastic about making lunch and saving some money. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, a little more than half of workers between the ages of 25 and 54 nationally bring a bag lunch. On Thursday, that slips a little bit to 41%. On Friday, we lose our momentum entirely. 80% of us treat ourselves to lunch made by somebody else. On Fridays, just 20% bring a brown bag. Now to the front page story in USA Today. The headline there, job cuts deepen across USA. The paper uses an illustration and corporate logos to tell this story visually. The New York Times also has a series of corporate logos on its front page, adding up the unusually high number of layoff announcements yesterday. 75,000 job cuts across the country by the Times count. Caterpillar, Pfizer, Home Depot, and Sprint Nextel among the companies making big cuts. They're calling it a staggering one-day toll. In the Washington Post, the story there says many of the job cuts are happening at sturdy companies that have been on good footing until recently. Baltimore Sun, the headline is troubling signs again. Caterpillar's logo prominently featured with the 20,000 jobs it's cutting. The Dallas Morning News headline is layoffs explode. Job cuts at Texas Instruments were of particular interest to readers there. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram across the other side of the Metroplex goes in a different direction for its front page, highlighting the cold weather that's predicted in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. With cold temperatures, road conditions are expected to get worse as this day goes on. The Chicago Tribune's Phil Rosenthal questions embattled Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich and his PR campaign in New York yesterday. Rosenthal looks at who the governor met with and what he said. One comment that's getting a lot of attention is the Senator Oprah remark. Blagojevich said he considered appointing talk show queen Oprah Winfrey to the U.S. Senate seat vacated by President Obama. 8 is enough. The big story in Los Angeles, how a local hospital delivered octuplets from a woman whose doctors thought she had only 7 babies. The LA Times says this miscalculation came despite the fact that 46 doctors, nurses, and surgical assistants were planning the births for weeks. They did work quickly once they started. It took just 5 minutes to deliver 6 boys and 2 girls. This is only the second time octuplets have been successfully delivered in the U.S. The Pittsburgh Gazette has Sunday's Super Bowl in mind. The Steelers are in Tampa Bay now. The players are in a hotel where the roofs look out onto a public atrium, and fans have gathered there, decked out in their black and gold and waving their terrible towels. The Arizona Republic with a report on 1,800 fans at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. They wished the Cardinals well as they flew out. One fan was there in a Steelers jersey. He was booed wildly in the sea of red. 2 police officers stayed close to the man in black, who eventually confessed that he was there to get a reaction as part of a local radio stunt. My goodness, there is a lot of Jessica Simpson to see today. She is prominent on the New York gossip pages this morning after wearing an unflattering outfit on stage in Florida at a chili cook-off. The New York Post headline is, Jessica is a big star. A story on page 3 says she stunned her fans with her bulky new build. The Daily News says she has gone from newlywed to newly fed. From columnist Daniel Howes in the Detroit News, a story that shouldn't be particularly surprising. Detroit is not so happy about President Obama's decision to allow California to set its own auto emission standards. Howes writes, any road to revival for Detroit's automakers now runs through a town called Tough Love in the state of California. From the Miami Herald, coverage of the unexpected increase in home sales numbers in December. The story here seems to be that if you cut prices enough, there is a point at which people will buy real estate. The story notes bargain basement foreclosures in California and Florida were selling particularly well. Also in the Herald, there's a new role for church missionaries in Fort Lauderdale. They are delivering the good word about money. Missionary Kevin Cross says the Bible is very clear about taking orderly steps to get our households in order. There may be more losers than winners in business these days, but McDonald's is on the right side of a trend now. A huge increase in sales and profit last year, as reported in the Wall Street Journal today. The numbers show people are less likely to go to the mid-priced sit-down restaurants, opting instead for a relative bargain at McDonald's. In the New York Times, below the fold on the front page, Belmont, California, home to one of the toughest anti-smoking laws in the country. Not just no smoking in restaurants and bars or at work. No smoking at home. People in apartments are now prohibited from smoking at home, so there's no chance the smoke will seep into the neighbor's apartment. In the science section of the Times, go ahead, son, eat that. Some doctors think kids are building a healthy immune system with all the stuff they put into their mouths. One doctor says kids who grew up on farms are a good example of this. They're exposed to more dirt and are less likely to develop allergies later in life. Finally today, to be buried where no one has been buried before. The late Gene Roddenberry and his recently deceased wife will have their remains sent into space now. The Houston Chronicle notes it is a local company called Celestic that will make the memorial space flight for the Star Trek creator. The remains of the Roddenberrys will be sent to the final frontier in a specially made capsule built to handle space travel and built to not accidentally return to Earth. And that's our look at the nation's headlines this morning. Remember, we do this every day. Go to patspapers.com for this report and for a complete rundown of the links to the stories featured today. See you again next time.